everyone. Welcome to Edtalksfilm. My name is Ed. We're here to talk film. And today, I'm actually going to do something that I haven't really done too much on this channel, which is actually review a movie. Today, I'm going to be reviewing Louis C.K.'s latest feature film, The 4th of July. Now, I've been a big fan of Louis C.K. for a long time. I discovered him when I was in high school through his comedy specials and also through his very, very amazing show, Louis. I sort of kept up with him, and then I never got to see Horace and Pete when it first came out, and then I Love You Daddy was coming out, and I was very excited about that, and then obviously everything happened. Louis C.K. has obviously been making a comeback. Since then, I have seen Horace and Pete, which is probably one of my favorite programs that's ever been out ever. I mean, honestly, I think it's one of the most well-written things I've ever seen. And I haven't seen I Love You Daddy, but I did get a chance to go see the Boston premiere of 4th of July with Louis C.K. and the cast of the film there for a Q&A. Or not a Q&A, it was like a panel discussion, basically. And I went with a friend, and it was very, very fun. Louis came out at the beginning. He did like 10 minutes just talking about the movie and doing jokes and stuff like that, and that was very fun. And then afterwards, he came out, him and Joe List, and they sort of started talking, and then the rest of the cast came out, and it was a very fun time. A lot of back and forth, a lot of very hilarious moments. I guess Louis C.K. is really on his way making his comeback. I know that it's very controversial right now for Louis C.K. to be doing this. I know that, we've all had very complicated feelings about this. I know I had very complicated feelings about Louis C.K. After that happened, and then, when he came back, and even today I still wrestle with it a little bit, but he is an artist that I think is very sincere, and is an artist that I think gave a lot to the world in terms of what he created and what he was able to say and just do within that creative space. And so I very much value his work, and I can't help but be excited for him to be back and to see new works from him, because he is someone who's been such a formative voice for me, and done a lot of made a lot of things that I just absolutely am in love with. So I had a blast, and let's talk about the movie. The whole reason that we were there in the first place, 4th of July. It is written and directed by Louis C.K., and it is also co-written by Joe List, who is the main actor star in the film. Louis C.K. is in the film, and he plays a therapist. And basically, the kind of rundown is Joe List plays a New York jazz piano player who's from New England, who every year his family on the 4th of July have this big kind of 2-week get-together at this cabin in Maine, and he tells his wife that she's not going to go. They kind of decide she's not going to go, and that he's going to go, and he's going to use this to confront his parents. And he tells this to his therapist, played by Louis C.K., who is like the most atrocious therapist of all. He just seems so uninterested in his clients. It's actually very, very funny. But yeah, he's like, I'm going to go there, I'm going to confront them, I'm going to tell them everything. It's been bothering me, it's been eating me up. And obviously nothing really goes to plan. And then we kind of get the movie about the family interacting. And this movie has a lot of strengths to it, if I'm being honest. And honestly, one of my biggest worries about the movie is that it was going to be bad. It was going to be, Louis comes back and it's a waste of time. I actually don't think it is, and it's actually very interesting because a lot of the critic reviews that I've seen have been very negative or middling at best, and I can almost see where they're coming from, but I think I can't at the same time. And I don't think it's necessarily because I just love Louis C.K., because I actually did have a genuine emotional reaction and connection to this film when it was playing. One of the things that I think I think the highlight of the movie, besides Joe List just being funny Joe List, is the fact that the film does an astounding job at portraying what a New England family, especially a very towny New England family, feels like, right? When the drinks get flowing, sort of the political incorrectness, the ones that maybe, other New Englanders, waspy type New Englanders may see as like the very, not very enlightened group of New Englanders, Boston type folk, that are here, and sort of what the family dynamics of that are like, and not only what the family dynamics of a kind of towny New England family are, but the family dynamics of a family that is very toxic, very kind of bad for each other emotionally and mentally, but also the forces that kind of propel them together continuously. Because it's like, they say you don't choose your family, right? But you're stuck with them. Sort of, or at least that's what people used to say. That's a narrative that I know has obviously been changing over the past few years, right? The idea of the found family, something we see a lot in like movies like that PTA makes. This movie kind of adheres to like, this is your family, you're stuck with them, and they treat you terribly, and sometimes you just gotta live with that. And I think the movie does a very good job of sort of just showing like, hey, these people are kind of bad for each other, but they also have a good time amongst like all these other moments that like you're like, oh my God, how have you not just gotten up and walked away and just left yet, right? The movie's able to like show that, and then be able to show like them having a good time and it not feel weird. And I think that maybe just has to do with my own background, and maybe a lot of people who are from the state, me even observing families like this. There's a character in the film who is an outsider in the family, and her husband died, and she's brought here by another member of the family just to hang out with them. And she's like observing this whole family dynamic from afar, and she's kind of perplexed by it. And that was a very interesting character, because I have been in that very same situation as well. Being an outsider in a family, especially an ethnic outsider to like a white, like Irish or Italian family, right? And being able to observe like what a big family dynamic between them all looks like, because that was something I was never very familiar with. I never really had big family gatherings that I was a part of regularly. So getting to see things through her eyes at times, or at least see her reactions to things, were I think very pertinent in sort of driving home some of that idea that, yeah, this is going to look crazy to people on the outside. And it kind of does sometimes, but it also is a little bit beautiful too. When it comes with all of that, like just seeing this family dynamic, I think they actually absolutely did a good job with doing that. I think Louis and Joe wrote it very real feeling. The stories that they tell, the things that they say that are totally like you shouldn't say those things, they nail it, and they nail the feeling of the connection of these people. I mean, the big, sort of conflict in the film is between Joe List's character Jeff and his parents, right? And the idea that he's like, you guys never really loved me, and getting to see like, they're hurt and they're perplexed and they're narcissistic, but they're also like, but they do kind of like love him in their own way, but like they don't know how to show that. They're very hurt people, and they're even more hurt by the idea that, oh my God, maybe, at least the mother character played by Paula, brilliantly played by Paula Plum, who I actually got to talk to afterwards. She was very, very nice. She's very perplexed, but like, what do you mean? What do you mean I don't love you? What the heck are you talking about? But then Robert Walsh's character, who's the dad, the guilt that sets into his character after he's confronted with that is so... It's very interesting, because he doesn't say much in the film. He's a lot of looks, and he's a lot of like very quiet moments, but you get it. You really get out of him, that sort of guilt. And that's also something I've observed in my own life. That's a very, very real thing that I've seen. And the mother being like completely perplexed by, oh my God, what are you talking about? I don't love you. I didn't do anything. What are you talking about? I literally gave birth to you. How could you be so ungrateful? I've witnessed this, all right? These are moments that I've actually been able to see and in some cases be a part of in my own life, and getting to see that written out on screen in that way, in a way that isn't tidily wrapped up either. Because that's the other thing about this movie. A lot of movies these days that try and do these strained family dynamics. There's a big apology and, oh my God, I can't believe, and oh, we're going to be a big happy family at the end together. And the movie doesn't give you that, and I appreciate that a lot, because that's not real. That doesn't really happen. There's no, like, you fix the family dynamic, right? That doesn't, very rarely does that ever happen. And you know, the first time Jeff tries to come out and tell his family this, right? They're kind of like, they brush it off. And then the second time, they're mad at him. They're all mad at him. And he comes off very crass, and he's not necessarily nice about it. And I think that plays into the pushback that he gets from that. So, you know, that's really the thing that I think I love the most about this film is the idea of not tidying up these things that very easily would be tidied up in a Hollywood movie. Not pretending like things can be fixed. Not pretending like, oh yeah, we're just gonna, you know, there's gonna be a clean break, clean reactions, clean, you know, everything is gonna go exactly like the way you would expect it to go. No, it doesn't go that way at all. It in fact opts for the route that's kind of depressing, and also it's weird because it's almost disguised as hopeful, but it is a little depressing that we can't have the Hollywood magical ending where we all get fixed together. Unfortunately, people don't change that quick, and these are things that you're just kind of gonna have to deal with no matter what. And it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to see in the film. But it's also something I can appreciate so much as a detail of what they're going for and what Louis is trying to like kind of drive home with this. And when you've seen Louis' comedy, when you've seen his work, you can kind of tell that he has definitely come from sort of a dynamic that's similar to this. And he even kind of talked about it on stage a little bit. He's spoken a little bit about his past and stuff like that, and sort of the kind of tried family dynamics that he had to go through. So, you know, I really, really appreciated this movie. And, yeah, it's a little amateurish at times. Louis C.K. is by no means had a huge budget when making this movie. He said he had to take out a line of credit on his house to finance the film. And, you know, it's not going to look like a super big amazing Hollywood production or whatever like that. It's definitely got editing and visuals that sort of are taken at a detriment a little bit because of the budget, but I don't think that really takes away from the writing so much. Other great standout things that happen in this film, the supporting cast: Nick DiPaolo, Chris Walsh, who is absolutely hilarious in the film. Nick DiPaolo, very hilarious in the film. Robert Kelly has some of the most laugh-out-loud moments. It's great to see Robert Kelly back. He's obviously just amazing to see him in anything that Louis does. Lynne Koplitz, great. The whole supporting cast really, really nails their roles in ways that... you know, they help. They sort of set dressing for the New England family, and you know, every time they have something to say, every time they have sort of a punch to a bit or something like that, they nail it. They nail it, and they do the accents great, and I think the most important thing to do, right, with supporting characters in a film is, you know, sometimes supporting characters in a film are just used just purely for jokes, just purely to, you know, add moments of levity. And they do that, for sure. They are there for moments of levity. There are very hilarious jokes that are played off with these specific characters. But they enhance the real feeling. I think that's something that I think a lot of films don't necessarily get, but this film really does very well. Is these people feel very real. While the main conflict is between Jeff and his mother and his father, and all the supporting cast people who are in there who they're not necessarily like not in there for long periods of time. The whole movie is just them. The whole movie is just this family. So there's a lot of time kind of devoted to each of those characters, or at least bits and pieces for each of those characters, multiple bits and pieces for each character. They do a really great job at, and not only just nailing these super funny jokes. Oh my God, there's one amazing moment. There's one super hilarious moment, like very early on, where Nick DiPaolo's character speaks to this to the guest, and she's half African American or whatever, and he says black, and then he says, "I'm sorry," and she goes, "You can say that I'm black. It's okay." And then this other character who is also in a lot of Louis stuff, I can't remember what his name is though at the moment. He goes, "See, I told you she was cool. Hey, you want to hear a joke?" And she just goes, "No, I don't think so." Because it's like, you know where he was going to go with that, and that's just, that was just too funny. Or there's an amazing moment where Jeff's parents are confronting him at the dinner table, and they're chewing him out, and then there's a pause, and then Joe, and because they're not going to say anything else, and then Joe's character, Jeff, decides to, kind of say something to them, and then I believe it's in the Lynne Koplitz's character, she goes, "Let her speak! Let her speak!" And you're like, I've literally seen this before, and like that's what I mean, man. And like, they make every moment feel so real in this film, and man, it kind of stinks that it's not getting very good critical reception. I think this is a very good film. I think this may be one of the best films that I've seen this year so far. It was a laugh out loud hilarious, especially seeing it with a great engaged crowd. It was laugh out loud hilarious, but it also had a lot of heart, and it was very touching. And by the end, I really felt moved emotionally. And Louis C.K. has done that before in his work for me, in his show Louis. There's a very specific arc, I think it's in the 4th season. It's in the 4th or the 3rd season. That's absolutely incredible. Obviously, Horace and Pete, if you've seen Horace and Pete, you know that show is extremely, not only dramatic, it's got funny moments, but it's very, sad and melancholy and, very moving. At the end, it was one of the most kind of painful experiences I've ever had. And I think he continues down the path of being able to sort of nail these sort of dark, creating humor and also a lot of heart in these very, very kind of dark, kind of depressing modes of human life. And yeah, I really, really dug 4th of July. It's definitely one of my favorite movies of the year. Super happy just to see another work by one of my favorite comedians and writers and just inspirations in film, period. I know it's going to be out on July 6th in a lot of AMC theaters around the country. It had its Chicago premiere last night. I know it can be hard to try and support an artist, especially after what has happened. If you don't feel comfortable supporting him, then don't watch the movie, obviously. But if you do, please go see it. Give it a shot. I think you may find something in it that may be of value, that may be funny. Hopefully it makes you laugh, and hopefully it gets you thinking about some things in your own life, because it definitely did for me. Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you all, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.